Listen to me very carefully. You want to know what hustle really looks like? Forget what you see on television with the polished floors and the screaming crowds. Let me take you back to a tiny, rundown apartment in Cleveland, Ohio, back when my only fan was a rattling box fan that sounded like a helicopter taking off in the middle of July. I was working 100 different odd jobs just to keep the lights on, selling insurance, cleaning carpets, fixing car engines, anything that put a few crumpled dollar bills in my pocket. But my real job was comedy. And comedy doesn't pay a dime when nobody knows your name. Every single night, after slaving away for 12 hours, I head down to local talent shows and open mic nights. Now, back then, clubs didn't just hand out stage time. You had to fight for 3 minutes behind a microphone that smelled like stale beer and cheap tobacco. One particular week, things got so tight financially that my refrigerator wasn't just empty, it was practically echoing. I had exactly $10.25 to my name. That was it. That was my entire financial portfolio for the week. My rent was due in 4 days. My car was making sound like a bag of marbles rolling down a dry metal slide, and I had a big booking coming up at a club across town. I needed a fresh haircut, a dry clean shirt, and gas to get there. Most people in that situation would panic. Most people would call it quits, fold up their ambitions, and go find a 9-to-5 clock to punch. But let me tell you something about a man who has a God-given vision. Desperation will either break you or it will wake you up. I took that $10.25, walked down to the local grocery store, and bought 3 things: a box of off-brand spaghetti, a jar of store-brand tomato sauce, and a pack of index cards. I didn't buy a haircut. I shaved my own head in the bathroom mirror using a pair of dull clippers. I didn't get my shirt dry cleaned. I washed it by hand in the kitchen sink and hung it over the back of a chair right in front of that noisy box fan, praying to the Almighty it would dry before sunset. Then I sat down at my tiny kitchen table with those index cards and a ballpoint pen. I started writing jokes, not just any jokes, material about my struggle, about my empty fridge, about the absurdity of trying to chase a dream when your pockets are completely inside out. I wrote until my hand cramped up. I rehearsed those lines out loud to an empty room until 3 in the morning, making sure every punchline hit harder than my current reality. The night of the show rolled around. My shirt was stiff from air drying, my car barely made it into the parking lot without smoking, and my nerves were fried. I walked onto that stage, looked out at a room full of tough crowd members who looked like they were daring me to fail, and I let loose. I didn't hide the struggle. I owned it. I talked about living on spaghetti. I talked about my rattling car. I talked about the grind, and something amazing happened. The room erupted. People weren't just laughing. They were relating. They felt every word because it was raw, it was real, and it was authentic. By the end of that night, the club owner handed me an envelope with $50 cash and a booking for the following weekend. It wasn't millions, but standing there in that stiff shirt, I knew the tide had turned. So here's my message to you today. If your bank account looks sad, if your plans are duct taped together, and if you're wondering if all this hard work is even worth it, keep writing your index cards. The struggle you are sitting in right now is just a rehearsal for the main event. God is testing your persistence, not your bank balance. And trust me, when he opens that door for you, you are going to walk through it ready for the spotlight. Now, somebody turn up the volume because we're just getting started.